All right, what's up, everybody? I'm going to make this short and sweet, kind of. So, first off, this is not medical advice. This is my opinion. This is for entertainment purposes only when we talk about drugs and whatever else is involving medical. And so, there's been a topic that's been very hot on social media, and that is the deaths in bodybuilding. And so, I think this is very important just because there's a lot of kids who are trying to get into bodybuilding or plastic physique because they want to enhance the way they look, the way they feel, boost confidence. They love the gym, they're athletes. And so a lot of people have been talking about the cause of death is going to be because of drugs, or the cause of death is because of the food volume. The cause of death is insulin. The cause of death is COVID because it's a clotting virus. The cause of death is training intensity. And you don't see 300-pound 60-year-olds, and that's kind of like they're claiming that these bodybuilders are now dying a lot at a younger age. Now, this is going to be information coming from other videos from RX Muscle or Bodybuilding and Bullocks, like Bro Chat, like Fuad's podcast, Nick Trigilli. There's a lot of different people that are talking about this, right? So I did make a few notes because I have a few things I want to bring up. So there are a seemingly number of bodybuilders that are dying more frequent, right? And it is in the male open bodybuilding division. There's been the one before of Peterson before the Olympia. I think he was maybe 212 or classic. No, he's classic. Yeah, so he's classic. And so there are a lot of different variants, and it's going to be hard to pinpoint one of them, right? So the first thing that immediately brought to my attention was, why are the men dying more often than the women? Right? I mean, the bodybuilding women's division, they get quite huge, right? They get very dense, they get very dry. But I think the one difference in the men and the women is that women, they biologically have more estrogen, and estrogen will be neuroprotective. It'll be joint protective, heart protective, cardiovascular protective. So that's like one variant that I see as maybe as more of a concern, right? So like, why isn't there more female bodybuilders dying in ratio compared with men that are dying right now? Okay, so I believe it was John Ramona that was like, hey, show me the bodies to prove that bodybuilding is dangerous. Is bodybuilding a dangerous sport? Yeah. Is football a dangerous sport? Yeah. I mean, look how many people get concussions or commit suicide, career-ending, life-ending injuries. Any type of sport is going to be dangerous. That's just the way it is. And there's a risk involved, and you know that going into the sport. And it doesn't matter how the rules are and how safe the rules can be protected. People are going to push past that limit of safety. Same thing if we look at driving a car. You're more likely to die in a car accident than from a gym accident, right? And even though the cars are now safer with automatic stopping and governors on speed, so you can't go past a certain speed limit, or better turning, things like that, people still get in wrecks. You would think that, oh, we have all these protective mechanisms on this vehicle, and then yet people are still swerving off the road and traction's lost, and they still hit things going 60 miles an hour. There's a lot of different variants that come into play. And so safety isn't just like making more rules or trying to make it more safe isn't really going to protect anything. So first off, the main one that's brought up is anabolic steroids. So is that the main cause of death? Are these guys pushing the limits on the amounts of anabolic steroids? Because there's a lot of different compounds and they all work differently within the body. And the bodybuilders typically use a variety of different drugs at the same time. Okay, and the male open bodybuilders and male physique competitors, classic physique competitors, 212, doesn't matter who they are, everyone has a different ability to be able to metabolize or utilize the drugs because of their sensitivity. So they're like hyper responders for some super physiological benefit. But then you also have the people that they take them in the large amounts and then they just can't metabolize them, right? So you might be able to respond to them and to utilize them, but you might not be able to metabolize them and get rid of them. Okay, so yes, you can say, hey, we're having more steroids being used during a cycle, during off season and prep. Maybe the frequency is longer compared to the olden days. Maybe the dosing of frequencies of orals with injections is longer. So maybe instead of staying on 2-week cycle of oral D-ball, they are doing 4-week cycles of oral D-ball or Anadrol, whatever their drug of choice. So that comes into play, right? So could it be the cycle? Maybe. But also, how about the purity of anabolic steroids? I mean, how pure are these anabolic steroids that we're getting now? Because there's a lot more bodybuilders out there, and there's a lot more underground labs that are creating them. And who's to say maybe there's some toxicity within that because of cross-contamination or just improper use of solvents for that drug of choice. So solvents play a big role as well. If a solvent can destroy the rubber top of a vial and you continue to poke through that, that rubber is going to go into your body continually, right? And if it's that, if it metabolizes that rubber that much and that quickly, just think about what it's doing maybe to the blood vessels. Maybe it's not deteriorating the endothelial walls, but maybe it's actually just causing a little bit more inflammation, and then your body tries to repair it, and that can cause plaque buildup, which can cause clotting. So that's in and of itself. I think that's more of an issue, not really the drug amounts or the cycles. I think people who are on the Olympia stage and who are professional bodybuilders, I think they are a little bit more responsible with the anabolic and androgenic steroids. Okay, now what about the stims and pre-workouts? So a lot of people are using pre-workouts and stimulants, but they're also using orals to help with increasing strength in the gym. So like, let's say Superdrol, Anadrol, Halo, whatever you want to take. Plus you're taking stimulants like caffeine. It's going to spike blood pressure. So that causes your kidneys to work a little bit harder and your heart to work a little bit harder, but then also your intensity in the gym paired with that, again, more spiking of the blood pressure. So again, more stress on the kidneys. So your kidneys take a lot of hit, right? Okay. And then, so you are so intense in the gym, you're taking all these stims and all these steroids, and now you have an issue with maybe a sore back, herniated disc or something joint wise. And now you get a prescription drug. So maybe there's prescription drugs that are mixed in alongside with this. And sometimes autopsy reports miss a lot of things, just like how if you go into a hospital, doctors frequently miss, let's say if someone's dehydrated and they don't know why they're fainting or whatever, they miss the prognosis of E. coli, right? So like there's a lot of things that are missed, okay? So prescription drugs, we don't know what people are taking, what they're prescribed with, or if they're taking Tylenol, aspirin, because they think that it's a good thing to help with reducing blood clots. People take baby aspirins, but maybe they don't need to because, hey, they just don't need to. Who knows why? How do you know if you have a clotting issue? Have you had a factor V test done? I know it's not common for men, but I mean, hey, you're taking steroids and other performance enhancing drugs that can change genetics, right? Okay, recreational drugs. I mean, we don't know if they're using cocaine, if they're using Molly. A lot of people are trying to use psychedelics to help them with reducing stress, reducing cortisol. They could be, weed, marijuana. What are they lacing it with? We have no idea. I grew up in Polk County in Florida, Central Florida, and that's going to be a lot of meth over there, and a lot of different drugs that are being made, and I've seen it, right? So we don't really know about that either. And again, that's all mixed in with the previous things I just said. So then we have ancillaries, right? So like I was saying, how like it's strange that we have a lot of men dying in open bodybuilding or bodybuilding physique and such, but yet we don't see a lot of women. So we do use ancillaries in bodybuilding to help with reducing estrogen, to get that hard, grainy look, to get rid of water retention, and to amplify the androgenic effects. But women have more estrogen biologically, And so that may be more cardioprotective and neuroprotective. So ancillary use, again, that could be playing a huge role as well. And then diuretics. So again, more stress on the kidneys. Diuretics to get, again, a more conditioned look. You're being judged, you're being the winning person if you are bringing in that conditioning package along with size, right? So you have the size, people are getting bigger, they walk around more weight, but then they also need to be more conditioned. So what are you going to give up? Are you going to give up conditioning, or are you going to give up size? Well, no, we're not going to give up anything, because we're freaking crazy, right? We are in love with the sport, and this is what we do, right? I'm not a bodybuilder, but I'm just saying this is what bodybuilders do. If you love football, you're going to do whatever you can to become the best football player. Doesn't matter. So diuretics, again, another thing that may be overused or misused, or just using the wrong frequency and duration. So they are useful in situations where you need to pull water away from the heart. But if you're pulling water away from the heart because of some compounds that you're using, and but then you're also taking ancillaries to help with reducing estrogen, again, it's a disaster. It's putting a lot of stress on the kidneys, because there are drugs that are metabolized via liver or kidneys. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're keeping organs functioning well. So again, going back to the next thing, you're looking for size, so muscle mass. So again, you're trying to build as much muscle, so using these anabolic compounds, androgenic compounds as well, to help with muscle density and intensity in the gym, and kind of get that nice shape, that nice hard dense look. So you're trying to build that same body, right? Now that leads into blood pressure issues. So the blood pressure issues, I mean, again, it's coming from the everything that I just listed before, alongside with sodium, so your diet as well. So now your kidneys are being forced to work harder, okay? But your lungs are also being forced to work harder, and your blood pressure and your heart, okay? So because you have more mass on you. Now, if you're an obese person, there's less blood that actually needs to be pushed to your body. Let's say you're 6 foot, 300 pounds, and you're 45% body fat. And then you got a 6 foot, 300 pound guy that's 10% body fat. That 10% body fat guy is going to have way more stress on his heart, way more stress on his kidney, on all of his organs, because he needs more blood pumped to all the muscles to be sustained. But then also not only to be sustained, but also to absorb nutrition and to be able to create the hormonal effect and create homeostasis. And there's just a lot of things going on to keep that muscle mass, because your body doesn't want to have that all the time. It's really stressful for the body. Okay, you need a lot of calories. We're humans of hunters and gatherers, right? So we know, our body knows that there's going to be periods of times where we will have food and where we won't have food. Whereas the guy who's 300 pounds and 45% body fat, he doesn't need as much blood flow. Like fat doesn't need blood flow, so your heart works less. So you might have more plaque buildup. I believe Greg Valentino on RX Muscle brought this up, and it's true. So you do see larger, more obese individuals that are older because of this fact. Your heart just doesn't need to work as hard. Okay, when you're 300 pounds and 10% body fat, your heart grows as well. All this exercise that you're doing, it grows. That term hypertrophy that everyone loves to use in the gym, that's doing it to your heart. So you do need it to atrophy a little bit, because it makes the heart and put it in a healthier position. So you don't want it too large, you don't want it too small. You want it in a perfect position for your body, because that's why you see long distance runners die a lot too. No one ever talks about, because their heart hypertrophies, and it needs to be able to pump a lot of blood volume at one time. So it goes, and that's why usually your heart rate's really low. And I've dealt with this before, like my heart rate's in the 30s, my resting heart rate, like 30. Whenever I sleep, I've had the heart monitors, and they're like, hey, you should be dead. But again, you don't want it that low, like 60, 70 is a nice range. So again, keeping that muscle size, you got to have the food volume and the food frequency. Now, this comes into play as well. Your body does need some time to kind of relax. Whenever you have so much food and so much muscle mass, and you have all this turning over of food and nutrition to muscle to helping telomeres like turnover, you're causing all the stress on your body and aging. Okay, so that's why every time that you activate like mTOR and you try to increase muscle, so muscle synthesis, so building a muscle, it can shorten these length of telomeres, and that can age you faster. That's why some of these guys, not to pick on one person, but you know, Brett Wilkin looks great. He blew up very, very fast. However, he aged quickly. So in 2 years' time, I mean, he aged like 5, 6, 7 years, man. Like it's different. How your body responds to building more mass, and it definitely ages you prematurely. So that's why you usually have people who do intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day, and they do frequent fasts throughout the month, and they live longer, they look younger, and you see this in other countries. So, but that's not going to be conducive to building muscle to becoming a bodybuilder. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, okay? Like we already talked about the cardiac output on the heart as you gain more weight, muscle particularly, because you got to push more blood into the muscle. And then also just training. I mean, think about not only just sustaining and walking around, breathing to keep all the blood in your muscles, but then you start training intensely or with hypertrophy. I mean, freak, man, like you'll have, you'll have like 18-inch arms blow up to 20-inch arms, right? Like that's a lot of blood volume, man. And again, that training intensity, that's just more blood volume, more blood pressure spiking, more adrenal issues. Adrenals sit right on top of the kidneys. So again, that's all being factored into this. Now we go into like the new age stuff. Okay, so now we have things like SARMs. So SARMs, they are regulated. Specific ones are regulated in the medical field, and they use them intravenously, and they use them at such small amounts. It's just for healing processes. Okay, the same way they use Anavar to help with people who are burn victims to regain muscle mass and maintain muscle mass, because if not, then they would have bone issues and osteoporosis issues. They use SARMs now as another way, and they specifically go toward one specific pathway. So people are using those quite often. We don't even know if they're SARMs. We don't know what they are, because again, you're not getting it from a pharmacy. So there you got that going into your body. You also have peptides. So all these peptides, there's so many out there, and there's different strains of amino acids, and it all really started from HGH. And again, that's another factor that's into play, is the amount of HGH that people use. So now they're like, hey, like let's cut down on the amount of HGH. So instead of like 16 IUs a day, 6 IUs a day, whatever you want to use, like let's start using maybe 4 IUs, 6 IUs of GH, and then we can use these other peptides like GHRP6 or apremilast, things like that, to help with appetite stimulation, nutrition uptake. They're trying to reduce myostatin. Myostatin helps to regulate the body's muscle mass, because again, too much muscle causes health issues. So the body has it has mechanisms to be able to preserve itself and keep itself healthy. So you're putting this into your body. Again, peptides, you can get them through wellness clinics. The same thing. Sometimes I've seen SARMs, but again, I don't think they're regulated by any sort of like GMP manufacturing. There's no way. And I don't really understand that industry. I would like to talk to like Derek, More Plates, More Dates. If he's ever down with it, just really see what Merrick Labs does and like what their facility's like. I'm very interested. No one's ever actually opened up about this. Where is everybody making these peptides that they're getting for their health and wellness clinics? I don't know. All right, then we have insulin. So again, insulin is going to be used for diabetics, because their pancreas type 1 doesn't work. Type 2, you're just resistant. And again, type 2s don't even really need insulin. I don't know why we give it to them. They just need to correct their diet. But insulin helps drive nutrients. It helps build. It's anabolic. Builds fat, builds muscle, builds everything. But too much insulin can cause issues with certain cells within the body. Just keep it simple. And the gut growth, they blame insulin with food volume, but insulin overall can be detrimental to vascular systems, to your capillaries, and also to your GI system. So a lot of the times it's going to It can cause disruption to your microbiome, and I'm more concerned about the microbiome causing further inflammatory issues or further autoimmune diseases or other underlying diseases, cardiac, kidney, liver, and I'd be very careful with that and not even use that. You don't really need it unless you're type 1 diabetic and you're trying to be an athlete or bodybuilder. Okay, and then last, this is where I think maybe we're avoiding the elephant in the room. This is vitamins and minerals in abundance. And you got to think about people using, they're not only eating food with vitamins and minerals naturally in it, but they're also taking things to help with the absorption of vitamins and minerals. And they're taking supplements throughout the day to help with vitamins and minerals absorption. But they're also taking things like Tutka or NAC or milk thistle. They're always trying to like detox their body at the same time. So you got detoxing and pulling in this nutrients of pseudo vitamins, right? So pseudo medicines that are coming in, pseudo pharmaceuticals, whatever you want to say. Like you're pulling these vitamins and minerals into your body, but you're also trying to detox or like just make your liver more efficient, your kidneys more efficient, trying to like, let's say, get rid of or improve bile flow for your liver. And then also taking things to help with reducing your GFR number and your kidneys, so your glomerular filtration rate, and you're just trying to make everything function better. But I think that maybe there's an abundance of, like, let's say vitamin K, because let's say you take a multivitamin, you take vitamin D and vitamin K, and then you're also doing this other greens powder, and you got something else over here, and they all have vitamin K. They all have different forms of vitamin K, and they also have maybe vitamin E. There's a lot of fat soluble vitamins in there that I think that maybe we need to take a step back and really assess on, hey, what are we taking? You either stick with the multivitamin or just like like what I like to do is just like some sort of blend. Like I go on Morphogen has like a Nutrigen on there, and that has everything that you need, man. So I think that less is more when we're talking about like multivitamins, unless you start doing them individually. So I'll either do them individually, which I'm doing right now, or I will do like a Nutrigen, which is just like a powder form, and you're good to go. Okay. All in all, getting blood work done, yes, that's giving you a picture or snap time, but usually bodybuilders are getting it done at their opportune time, like when they want to get it done. I think when you're feeling like crap, that's when you need to get it done. I think you need to see what your ALT and AST, what's your liver doing, like literally the day after a workout. Like, why don't you do that? Because everyone's like, oh, you got to wait and get your blood work done after 3 days of resting. No, like, let me see what's going on now. Like, how high do my enzymes go? And then get your blood work done another period of time to redo your workout, and then you do a rest day, and then before your next workout you do a blood work, right? So you can kind of see what does a day look like, because you're not taking 3 days off like in a row during prep, right? You're not. So why not just see what's your body doing? Because if that is elevated the entire time, I mean, that's going to be an issue. So again, there's so many variables in here, but I think we're missing the point. We're missing the point that you don't need to snap like a picture of blood work during the times that you're going to be good, right? You need these pictures, you need this blood work, you need this data of when you're actually causing trauma to the body, and you're doing it daily almost, right? I mean, I see people getting ready for preps, they're doing it daily, right? And you're doing all these other drugs. There's just so many variables. You can't blame it on one thing. You can't blame it on size. You can't blame it on diuretics. You can't blame it on all these things. You can't just have some sort of rule or a doctor for that, like saying, hey, you have to get your blood work done, and then the doctor's going to read it before going on stage. There's so much liability for that doctor to say, yeah, I know that they're on trend, but I'm going to go ahead and let them go on there. Oh, hey, I know, like, he has to know, where are you getting this trend? You know, and that's an illegal substance. So now he's going to be caught in the legal situation with that. You can't do that. You can't be like, hey, this is a sport that we allow the use of these compounds, and we know they're illegal, but yet we make them, and we don't care what the FDA says, you know, or the FDA, the DEA. So you don't care what the DEA says. Like, you know, we're going to do it anyways. You can't do that. So like, you really can't have a doctor who's licensed on the board, really, unless he just wants to like not be on the board. But then what yeah, he's a doctor, he knows what he's talking about, like, but then where's the like criteria, the certification, as if like someone versus like football, like the NFL football, right? They're not governed by WADA, because then they for sure will get caught with compounds, right? WADA is very particular, and these teams don't have enough money to hire these gurus to kind of mask these tests, and their season's very, very long, right? Versus the Olympics, it's kind of different. So you can't just have these rules in place. You can educate on all of that education. However, we're also saying, hey, everyone cares the same, or everyone has the same learning capacity, or everyone learns the same. Like, there's so many different variables that it really comes down to personal responsibility. And it's sad to see these people die because of a sport that they love, but it literally happens all the time. And social media makes it known to us a lot more often. But to know that, hey, I also had 4 friends that died due to gunshots. I had 3 friends that died in car wrecks. I had 6, I had a friend that died because a drunk driver hit them. So am I pissed off, and am I going to say, hey, like, let's get rid of alcohol? Like, why is alcohol even legal if it keeps killing people? So there's just too many variables. You can educate, you can do all this want, you can plead and just beg people to watch their health and be healthy, take lower doses, but it really comes down to the criteria of what is the IFBB and the NPC really looking at. Well, who are they going to reward? Are they going to reward the person who looks super big, but more conditioned? I mean, then you're awarding a open bodybuilder the same way you would classic physique. So now let's just get rid of open bodybuilding if you're really saying that. But then you want to draw the attraction to the freaks. I don't think these guys are saying, oh, people come into the show because they love the freaks. They love open bodybuilding because they love to watch freaks. Is that the way that we're going? Like, I really don't think so. You have more fanboys of Chris Bumstead, Terrence Ruffin. You have more fanboys of those guys than you do of other open bodybuilders. And because, like, that's who they want to, like, fanboys, I mean, like, they want to be like them. Not fanboys like, oh, hey, this dude's freaking sick. Like he's huge. Like Nick Walker, Brett Wilkin, Big Ramy, they're huge. However, out of those people that let's say love to see that, how many of them actually want to be that big? How many of them want to not be able to tie their shoe, or to freaking be out of breath just going to the fridge and back to the couch? A lot of people don't know how uncomfortable they get. I don't know how uncomfortable they get. Same thing even with classic physique, man. Those guys get big. They're big, but it's more attainable, and it may be more safe than open bodybuilding, because we don't really know, because no one opens up about their drug protocols. What if you do want to do something, you'd make it mandatory for a board on the IFBB to go to every single coach and figure out and get their cycles for each competitor on the Olympia stage. Why not, right? Or at least IFBB. And these are the cycles. And if we get if we randomly blood test you and we find a different compound that's in there, then you can't compete forever. Like, you're done. You're just done. And the coach is done as well, because the coach lied. So that's really what would need to happen. If the IFBB has a panel and they have some sort of consentment form and like underground society, and they're like, hey, we're never ever going to tell who like what this person's running, where they got it from or anything like this, but we need this information from the competitor and the coach. They both need to match the same. And then if we randomly drug test you and it doesn't match what's in your blood, then you will never compete and you will never be a coach again. That's how you're actually going to save it. That's the only way. You need to have personal responsibility and personal accountability, but you need to have some sort of board of voted men, like some sort of governing body. But then we also know what happens to government if they become, too powerful or too self-righteous, right? Like they become corrupt. So you also don't want to corrupt it. So then it may be corrupted. So then there might be leaking information. So there's a lot of issues that come into play when we're trying to say, hey, we need to make this a sport that is for sure known to kill you faster and to age you faster. We're going to try to make it safe. Now, So hopefully you got to the end of this, which I highly encourage you, because I have no clue how long this video is. But please like, share, comment, subscribe. Share this to a lot of the guys who are going into bodybuilding, that there's a lot more variables than just drugs and size and food and training. There's a lot more variables when it comes to competing and being competitive, and for this actually being a sport. And I think that's, again, man, that the main concern is education for sure, but it's just personal responsibility. You drive in your car every day knowing that someone may hit you and you may die, and that's just that's life, unfortunately. You know, I've had close people who I'm close with die. Literally, people who've friend who has sat beside me was shot and killed, and right beside me, and I witnessed it all, right? So I know how it feels to have that situation to where you lose someone that you love, and in a very unwanted circumstance, but there's also a circumstance where you knew something bad may happen. And so that's personal responsibility, and everyone deals with it differently. But that's all I have to say. So sorry for all those who have lost someone who they loved, sincerely, but that's it for me. All right, guys, later.